I am the owner of an adult store. In one of the promotional videos I posted, a guy tagged his girlfriend, asking her to check it out. He wrote, "Wifey, I love this one, put it on and let me see." But when I clicked on his profile picture, I froze. It was Makoto, the school bully who had tormented me in high school. I would recognize that face even if it turned to dust. I didn't sleep all night, scrolling through all of his videos. Then I clicked on the girlfriend he tagged, and sent her a private message. Chapter 1. Before seeing Makoto again, I'd imagined many times what he might be like now. I had once thought that karma would catch up with him, that he'd live a miserable life, poor and struggling. But no. In the videos he posted, one day he's in a luxury hotel in the Maldives that costs thousands a night. The next day he's in Iceland watching the northern lights. And the day after that, he's driving a sports car on the west coast, speeding under the sunset. In the most recent photo, he's in a black Rolls-Royce, wearing a Vacheron Constantin watch, smiling arrogantly at the camera, with no sign of worry on his face. He looks like he's living the high life, but why? I stared at his smiling face on my phone screen, and slowly, that smile morphed into the face of the same Makoto I knew back in school, laughing while punching my face over and over. Changing hands when his own grew tired. He would grin and point the camera at my swollen, bleeding face, saying, "Smile, George, you think you're so smart with your studies, always acting all high and mighty. Why aren't you smiling now?" He yanked my hair hard, deepening his grin as he mocked me. Smile. Makoto's cruelty towards me started when the girl he liked handed me a love letter on Valentine's Day. I politely told her that we were still students, and it was too early for a relationship. So I intended to return the letter to her, but in a fit of childish temper, she shoved the letter into my pocket and said that if I didn't want it, she'd tear it up, and then she walked away. While I was standing there, unsure what to do with the letter, Makoto barged in. He snatched it from my hand, stared at it for a moment, then suddenly laughed, though that laugh was twisted, sending a chill down my spine. He said, "This girl, I've been chasing her for 3 months and couldn't get her, and now she likes you, huh?" He looked at me with a look that made my skin crawl, saying, "George, you're something else." After that, Makoto started targeting me relentlessly. The most terrifying part of my day was always after school because I never knew when he would ambush me in the restroom with his goons, beating and humiliating me. Those days were filled with fear, nightmares every night, but I couldn't tell anyone. I grew up in a broken family. My parents both remarried, and only my crippled grandmother took me in. She ran a small shop selling braised snacks, waking up early and staying late to support me through school. I was one of the few students in that private school who had been admitted on a full scholarship due to my excellent grades. I couldn't tell the teachers because Makoto had threatened my grandmother, and I knew the school wouldn't lift a finger against someone as powerful as Makoto's father. So, I buried myself in studying, hoping I could escape and leave that place behind. But even that hope didn't come true in the end. The night before the college entrance exam, Makoto locked me in the bathroom again, and this time his minions poured filth all over me and took photos. That night, I was locked in the restroom and didn't know that my photos were already circulating in local chat groups. I also didn't know that Makoto had sent people to show those photos to my grandmother at her shop. She was so worried, but couldn't reach me, and limped to the school to find me. In her hurry, she didn't look both ways while crossing the road and was run over by a truck. She died on the spot. I didn't find out until the next morning when the janitor let me out. I was dizzy and disoriented, collapsing on the ground, my mind blank. When I woke up, I was in the hospital. In one day, I lost the chance to change my life with the college exam, and I lost my grandmother, who had been my only family. The aftermath of that day is mostly a blur. Perhaps my body was in so much pain that my mind protected me from those memories. But I remember hearing my teacher in the hallway saying with regret to someone else, he was really a top student with the potential to go to Tsinghua or Peking University. It's such a shame. Makoto suffered no consequences. He was just called to the principal's office and given a scolding. His father was a well-known local businessman and taxpayer, so the principal didn't dare to offend him. I used the last of my family's money to pay for my grandmother's funeral, and since I couldn't afford to repeat the year, I had to get a job in a factory to support myself. Meanwhile, Makoto went to the US for university and began his glamorous life. I sat on the sofa, the living room lights off, just staring blankly at the pitch-black CEI liag. In the hardest years, I spent many nights like this, lost in thought. Eventually, things did get better. After earning some money, I took the adult college exams, saved up enough to open a sex shop, and with a bit of luck and the help of several skilled models, the business took off. Before long, I achieved financial freedom. I thought I had forgotten the past, that I was ready to start a new life, but the moment I saw Makoto's face again, I realized I had never truly let go. I hated him. I hated him with every fiber of my being. I sat there until dawn, my stiff fingers finally tapping open the account he tagged. It wasn't artistic, Ancient-style watercolor avatar. There had been no videos posted, but I quickly figured out who she was. Willow, Makoto's fiancé. The Ito family was on the brink of bankruptcy when Makoto went to college, but they managed to stay afloat by looking up with the Liu family through marriage. In other words, Makoto, the rich kid, was living his luxurious life thanks to his fiancé's family background. It was almost ironic, my profile picture was a photo of me. Yet Makoto didn't recognize me. He had personally pushed me into hell, and his face haunted me in every nightmare, but he didn't remember me. Instead, he tagged Willow to check out my post. I clicked on Willow's profile and sent her a message. Are you there? We've got discounts. Chapter 2. 3 days later, I opened Willow's chat box for what felt like the umpteenth time. She still hadn't replied. I wasn't too surprised, though. Based on the information I'd gathered about her over the past few days, Willow seemed like a pretty innocent girl. Besides, how many women would reply to messages from a stranger? Makoto's tag was probably just a casual joke. He knew Willow wouldn't be interested. What's surprising is that Willow is the only daughter of the Liu family, the future heir of the Liu Corporation. From the photos and videos I found, she was stunning, beautiful features, and thanks to her celebrity mother, she had the kind of face that could debut as a model on the spot. She was the epitome of a rich, beautiful girl, but rather than enjoying shopping or travaliag, her favorite hobby was fishing. I'd seen female streamers who fish, but Willow, she was something else. She'd go to a beach or a pond, set up a fishing rod, and fish for an entire day. It was the first time I'd ever seen anyone like her. It seemed like trying to reach her online wasn't going to work, so I dug deeper into her background. I even went to her workplace to do some investigating. Willow led a simple life. Every day was a routine, 2 points and 1 lioa. On weekends, she would spend a full day fishing. After figuring out her work hours, I followed her in my car, waited for a red light, and then pulled behind her. And then, I crashed right into her car. With a loud thud, her car came to a halt. I straightened my hair, catching a glimpse of her in the rearview mirror. I had hired a 5-figure image designer to craft my look and paired it with a minimalist American-style suit to give off an air of understated luxury. First impressions are everything. People might not fall in love with you because of your appearance, but you definitely don't want to give them a reason to dislike you. I adjusted my expression, put on an apologetic smile, and walked over to her car. I gently knocked on the window. When she opened the door and saw me, her previously furrowed brow gradually relaxed, and the air seemed to soften. She was dressed elegantly. Her white French lantern sleeve blouse highlighted her delicate collarbones, and her high-waisted skirt accentuated her long legs. The pearl tassel earrings made her features even more graceful and captivating. I said, "Sorry, my brakes were a bit faulty. Are you okay?" Willow shook her head, then walked around the car to take a look. She said softly, "It's not serious. Let's go through the insurance process." I nodded. "All right, let's move out of the way so we're not blocking traffic." We waited for the insurance company to arrive and went through the whole process. Then, naturally, I took out my phone, opened the QR code, and handed it to her. "Let's add each other on WeChat. If anything comes up, we can contact each other." My tone was casual, giving her no chance to refuse. Willow paused for a moment, then picked up her phone to scan my code. I lowered my head. "I'm really sorry about today. How about I treat you to a meal sometime?" She shook her head. "No need. The insurance is all sorted. If there's anything, we can just contact each other on WeChat." As I expected, she rejected my offer and got in her car to leave. I watched her car merge into traffic, holding my phone, a small smile creeping onto my lips. My goal for today had been achieved. I hadn't expected to get so close to Willow this quickly, but getting her contact information was already a success. I like the challenge of conquering difficult women. If they fall too easily, it's just not interesting. I found all of Makoto's social media accounts. He really seemed to be head over heels for Willow, pathetic like a simp, constantly tagging her with cheesy love messages. Makoto, I'd like to see how well he does without Willow. If karma doesn't catch up to him, I'll make sure it does. Chapter 3. I spent the whole night studying Willow's social media. She really was a simple girl. Her posts were sparse, and the only time she ever shared anything was when she caught a big fish. I didn't reach out to her directly, but a few days later, I posted a photo on my social media. The dark, still water was rippled by the wind. I was holding a large carp and grinning at the camera. The caption read, "Another day of harvest." I waited a week, but Willow neither liked nor commented on it. That week, she hadn't posted anything either. Clearly, she hadn't caught any fish. The following week, I posted again. This time, it was another big carp. Only this one was even bigger, at least 4 or 5 pounds. The caption said, "Caught a fish." She still didn't reply. The third week, I posted another photo. The caption was, "Fish that can never be caught, never ending." Then I went to sleep. The next morning, I checked my phone. Among the dozens of likes, I finally saw the one I'd been waiting for. Willow commented, "Where is this?" I looked at my phone and smiled. The fish was finally on the hook. Chapter 4. The next time I saw Willow, she was clearly more talkative. She asked, "Is there really that many fish at the spot you mentioned? You're not lying to me, are you?" I glanced at her without making it obvious. She was wearing a white sports tank top and high-waisted outdoor shorts, her long hair casually tied up, swaying gently with the breeze. When she talked about something she was interested in, her eyes widened just a little. Sparklyig. It was a far cry from the cold, aloof look she usually gave in fashion magazines. This time, she seemed more like a 20-something college girl. I nodded. "You'll see when you get there. I've been here many times, and I've never gone home empty-handed." The truth was, I wasn't a fishing enthusiast at all. I didn't even know how to fish. I'd only been intensely studying it recently. All to catch Willow, my catch of the day. This fishing spot was one I'd discovered after asking around and doing some exploring on my own. When Willow first commented on my social media post, I didn't respond. Then, a day later, I posted another one, and finally replied slowly. "On a mountain, a bit hard to find." She replied almost immediately, "Can you take me there next time? Thanks." I put my phone down, had dinner, and waited until I figured she was getting impatient. Then replied, "Sure." Willow and I were fishing a few meters apart, both silently focused on our lures. We didn't talk much unless one of us caught a fish. I could tell when I hooked one. She was eager to come over and take a look, but she would pretend not to care, glancing over nonchalantly instead. From what I knew, Willow was the kind of person who had a cold exterior but was very simple inside. She'd probably grown up with a silver spoon in her mouth, and with her privileged background, she never needed to go out of her way to please anyone. People had always catered to her, and so her world revolved around herself. But that self-centeredness was more a habit than anything else, probably because she didn't have many people to interact with. She was innocent and easy to read. Her emotions were always written on her face. When liag with someone like Willow, you can't be too forward. If you push too hard, she might just fly away like a frightened bird. After taking her to the spot once, I didn't contact her again, but I made sure to learn her schedule. I'd hang around the area, making sure to bump into her at least once a week, but waiting for a fish to bite was boring. So after the third time, Willow started talking to me again. She asked, "How did you find this fishing spot?" I answered, "I've been to most of the nearby fishing spots and didn't find anything interesting. I came here once while hiking and thought it was good, so I decided to give it a try." Turns out, I was right. When the conversation turned to fishing, Willow became a lot more talkative. She showed me a video of her fishing for catfish in the Amazon River, and I was impressed. In return, I showed her pictures of me fishing for tuna on the ocean. Her eyes lit up, but then a hint of regret crossed her face as she said, "I've always wanted to fish for tuna, but work's been so busy that I never had the chance." She looked at me, her eyes wide, and said for the first time, "I didn't expect you to like fishing so much, and you're really good at it." The conversation flowed smoothly from there. We started talking about sports, music, movies, and books. Then, to our surprise, we realized we shared a lot of the same interests. We both liked skiing. Both loved Yukio Mishima's The Sailor Who Fell from Grace with the Sea. Both enjoyed listening to Koji Tamaki. Even when we disagreed on something, we understood each other's preferences. By the time we looked up, we'd been talking for the entire afternoon, and it had already gotten dark. From then on, we often fished together and chatted. We even adopted a little wild cat together, a small orange kitten, just a few months old. Every time we went fishing, it would obediently lie next to us, waiting for a fish. Sometimes, when we didn't catch anything, it would meow anxiously, urging us to hurry up. I named it Big Orange, simply because it looked like a big orange. Every time I went, I'd bring it some treats. Willow seemed a little afraid of it. Every time Big Orange tried to nuzzle her, she'd shy away. She had a bit of a cleanliness obsession, worried about the cat for sticking to her. One evening, as we were saying goodbye, Willow asked me for the first time, "When are you coming next time?" I thought for a moment and said, "Work's been busy recently, so I'm not sure." A trace of disappointment flickered in her eyes, but she nodded lightly and didn't say more. I didn't go the following week, but the week after, I finally showed up. When she saw me, Willow didn't show much on her face, but she quickly moved her chair closer to mine. She said, "Where have you been? Why haven't you been coming to fish?" I walked over and petted Big Orange, who was lying on the ground, stretching and yawning. Its belly was rounder now, and its fur was glossy and smooth. It looked well taken care of. I asked, "Have you been feeding it these past few days?" Willow tilted her chin slightly, a teasing tone in her voice as she said, "You named it, but you've been ignoring it all this time." She quickly became a bit smug, adding, "Of course, I've been taking care of it. I come here every day to give it fish to eat." Big Orange walked over and rubbed against her leg. Willow frowned and said in mock annoyance, "Can you stop sticking so close? Every time, you're covered in fur." But, as if used to it, she gently picked it up and placed it on her lap. Big Orange settled comfortably on her, and her white jacket was soon covered in cat fur. But Willow didn't mind. In fact, she scratched under its chin with an expert hand. I watched this from the side, silently making up my mind. She's a tsundere, isn't she? Beautiful, kind-hearted, and a bit of a tsundere, it'll be easy to handle her. I couldn't help but chuckle to myself, then grabbed my fishing rod. The next moment, I accidentally pricked my hand on the hook. I winced and squeezed my fingers, a drop of blood appearing. Willow immediately put Big Orange down and hurriedly grabbed a band-aid from the box. Her brow furrowed as she walked over. "Why are you so careless?" she said. As I reached out to take the band-aid, she gently spoke. "Hold out your hand." I smiled and said, "It's not a big deal. The cut will be fine in a while." But before I could finish, I looked up and met her gaze. She was pouting, and without realizing it, I found myself swallowing my words. We were too close. Without realizing it, we'd moved much closer than before. The setting sun in the mountains turned a soft orange, gradually fading into blue. The wind was trapped in the valley, carrying damp air, and I could smell a faint lavender scent from Willow's skin, subtle yet pleasant. Whether it was her perfume or body wash, her pupils were lighter than most people's, clear and pure, and at that moment, they reflected nothing but me. The wind blew her hair across my face, and we just stood there, staring at each other, until Big Orange impatiently meowed in the background. We snapped back to reality at the same time and quickly stepped back. She spun around, her back to me, crouching down to rub Big Orange's belly. "Are you hungry? I'll feed you now." I laughed softly, and in the dim light, I saw her cheeks flush. From that day on, it seemed like we had developed some kind of unspoken understanding. When I went fishing, I would ask her to join, and when she went, she'd invite me too. We went out at least twice a week, sometimes in the quiet mountains, sometimes on the vast sea, sometimes at a private fishing ground I rented. But every time, it was just the two of us. Meanwhile, I kept an eye on Makoto's social media. His desperate displays of affection became fewer and fewer, until eventually, he didn't post anything for several days. I watched coldly, then met his girlfriend in the best possible mood during the day. This mutual understanding between Willow and me, where we both knew what was happening but pretended otherwise, had been simmering for 2 months. I felt the time had come. That night, as she held Big Orange, I suddenly asked, "Willow, do you have a boyfriend?" Chapter 5. Makoto posted on social media again, but this time, it wasn't some cheesy love confession aimed at Willow. Instead, it was, "Someone actually dares to hit on my woman. Don't let me find out who you are." I leaned against the window, exhaling a puff of smoke, and smirked. Looks like they had an argument. Makoto and Willow's relationship always seemed to be one-sided, with him doing all the chasing. From Willow's blog back when she was studying abroad to her current social media posts, there wasn't a single one about Makoto. What was already a one-sided relationship now had me as the third wheel, and it was starting to get shaky. Willow didn't answer my question that day, but we both knew what her silence meant. That day, neither of us said anything. We packed up our rods quickly and went home, but I knew Willow was upset. However, I couldn't predict whether things would get better or worse. Maybe she didn't like Makoto, but the Liu and Ito families had been closely looked for many years, and the idea of an arranged marriage wasn't something to take lightly. She might have feelings for me, but how much? Would she be willing to go against her parents' wishes? Sure enough, later that day, Willow sent me a message on WeChat. She wrote, "I won't be fishing anymore. Thank you for keeping me company these past few days." And she meant it. She really stopped showing up. I kept going to various fishing spots, but it was as if she was deliberately avoiding me. She didn't appear again. Big Orange was also gone. I thought about adopting it, but after searching the area thoroughly, I couldn't find it anywhere. The only thing that changed was Willow's profile picture. It was of an orange cat lazily lying on a carpet, yawning. I zoomed in and looked closely. It was Big Orange. I was speechless. Half a month later, I posted a picture on my social media. It was a shot of me and two girls holding fish. Both of the girls were tall and curvy, their white tank tops tight and revealing. I had one arm around each of them, smiling brightly. These were models I hired, paying them 2,000 yuan a day. Fishing is all about skill. Simply baiting the hook won't catch you anything. The next day, when I went back to that pond, I felt a chill in the air. I turned around, and Willow was sitting silently beside me, her expression cold as she cast her liuwa without a word, but she didn't even put any bait on her hook. We sat there in silence for a while until she finally spoke. Her voice was emotionless. "Who were those two girls yesterday?" I replied without a thought. "What does that have to do with Miss Liu? Don't you have a boyfriend?" She fell silent. For the next half hour, I was catching fish one after another. While Willow didn't hook a single one, she seemed to have forgotten to put any bait on her liuwa. Sitting there, sulking, lost in her own thoughts, I stood up to cast again, and the next second, my hook caught her skirt. I was speechless. Willow glared at me, furious. "Are you fishing, or are you fishing for me?" I hurried over to reel it in, trying to unhook the liuwa, but my hasty movements only caused her skirt to lift slightly, exposing a pale leg. I quickly looked up, our eyes met, and in that instant, she suddenly leaned in and kissed me. It wasn't a romantic scene at all around us. There was only the two of us, awkward fishermen and the fish swimming below, and the kiss was anything but elegant. Rather than a kiss, it felt like a battle. She wrapped her arms around my neck, rising on her toes, while I pulled her closer by the back of her head, deepening the kiss. I don't know how long it lasted. Only when she started gasping for air and beat my shoulder did I finally release her. I lowered my gaze at her and said, "Willow, I'm not interested in stealing someone else's girlfriend." Her eyes turned crimson, and it took her a while to calm her breath. She nodded, whispering, "I know. I don't know how to explain this to you, but I want you to know that I'm not doing this willy ugly. I'm forced into this by my family. I don't like him. Please give me some time." "Okay, I'll break up with him." That night, I opened Makoto's social media again. He hadn't posted anything, but I knew, deep down, he wasn't doing well. Sure enough, later that night, he posted several frantic updates, the last one simply reading, "Wait for it. I'm not going down without a fight." Chapter 6. Before I received Willow's reply, Makoto showed up first. He must have found my contact information somehow and asked me to meet him at a cafe to talk. When I saw Makoto again, he still had that rich, arrogant air vibe, dressed in a high-end Italian suit, wearing a Patek Philippe watch, and polished Berluti leather shoes. He glared at me with a sharp, menacing look. He scanned me up and down and snarled, "So, you're the one trying to make a move on my woman." I pinched the bridge of my nose. He still didn't recognize me, but I wasn't surprised. After that incident, I changed my name to avoid drawing attention, took off my glasses, and over the years, I'd made some money. My appearance had changed quite a bit. I didn't look as shabby as before, so not recognizing me was normal. After all, the victim never forgets the face of the person who wronged them, while the perpetrator likely never paid attention to the victim's face. I took a sip of my tea and smiled. "Mr. Ito, right, you can't say it like that. Willow told me you two are just a family business arrangement. She's never looked at you the way you think." Sure enough, this immediately angered him. Makoto's face darkened, and he snapped, "Are you looking to die? You're just some loser seluging to my girlfriend. Do you really think she'd want someone like you, a bottom feeder?" I kept my smile, staring him straight in the eye, and said, "A simp is someone who knows the other person doesn't like them, yet still throws themselves at them like a clown, right? What do you think, Mr. Ito?" Makoto's rage exploded. He grabbed a water cup from the table and splashed it over my head. The scalding hot water made me momentarily dazed, and I was reminded of the time he poured hot water on me years ago. People around us turned to look, but Makoto didn't care at all. He grabbed my collar and raised his fist, ready to punch me. I could already imagine the force of that punch. After all, I'd taken plenty of beatings in high school, but this time, I blocked his punch, and in his surprised expression, I landed a punch straight to his face. He was stunned. "You dare hit me?" It was probably the first time Makoto had ever been hit. He froze for a moment, then his rage flared up again. He swung his fist toward me, but I dodged, lowering my head and landing a vicious uppercut to his chin. The impact was loud, bang, and Makoto held his jaw, grinding his teeth in silence, his face filled with disbelief. I said, "What's wrong with hitting you?" "Still smilayag." I leaned forward, bracing myself on the table. There was a gleam of satisfaction in my eyes as I said, "I'm not just hitting you, I'm taking your woman. What are you going to do about it?" Makoto was on the brink of insanity. He kicked over the table and tried to punch me again, but before he could move, a female voice cut through the chaos. "Makoto, didn't I tell you? This is my decision, and he has nothing to do with it. Why are you causing trouble with him?" I turned around to see Willow, her eyes red, biting her lower lip, her entire body trembling with anger. Makoto, still furious, swung his fist in the air and yelled, "How does this have nothing to do with him? This scumbag must have brainwashed you. How else could you possibly break off an engagement to me for a loser like him?" Willow bit her lip and replied coldly, "It's not about how many months we've known each other. Makoto, I don't like you, and I never have. Do you understand? I've been with you this whole time because my parents forced me into it. We both know it's just a business arrangement between our families." Makoto growled, his voice dripping with fury. "But I'm serious about you." His face turned red, veins bulging on his forehead, his expression twisted with anger. He was losing his composure, shouting, "It's all your fault, you bastard. I'll kill you." He was so used to being dominant that, at this point, even in front of Willow, he couldn't keep up his facade. He threw a punch at me, and this time, I didn't dodge. His fist grazed my cheek, and I staggered back a few steps. Seeing this, Willow pushed Makoto away angrily, shouting, "Stop it." Makoto, staring at her in disbelief, growled, "Willow, how could you treat me like this?" But Willow didn't care about Makoto's emotional breakdown. She rushed over to me, holding my arm and checking me up and down. "Are you okay? You didn't get hurt, did you?" I shook my head, reassuring her as I hugged her and patted her shoulder. "I'm fine," I said, then gave Makoto a smirk behind her back, raising an eyebrow. Makoto's teeth were grinding, and he muttered, "Willow, the Liu family won't approve of you breaking off the engagement." Willow leaned into me, her voice calm and cold as she looked at Makoto. "I'm making the decision for my own life. I don't need anyone's approval. Makoto, I'll say this one last time, this is my choice, and it has nothing to do with him. I liked him first. I'm warning you, if you come after him again, I won't let you off the hook." Makoto's face turned pale. He clenched his fists, glaring at us. Before storming out in a huff, Willow clung to me, crying and apologizing. I comforted her while slipping my phone into my pocket. I'd messaged Willow when Makoto came to find me. I just didn't expect her to show up so quickly. When a woman truly hates someone, she can be ruthless, but I liked it. Chapter 7. The days with Willow were a kind of happiness I hadn't anticipated. Some of the things we supposedly had in common were things I found out from her old blog, but many were things I truly enjoyed. We had similar tastes in many things, though not always identical. Being with her was comfortable and never boring. We went skiing in the Alps, holding each other at the foot of the snowy mountains. We went to Tanzania and rode in a hot air balloon, kissing under the most beautiful sunset. I even came to genuinely enjoy fishing. I took annual leave to go deep-sea fishing for tuna with her. When she caught a fish but couldn't hold onto the rod, I helped her. We fumbled around, foul-lying on each other, watching the fish escape and pounding our thighs, laughing like fools. In the evenings, we held hands and went to the supermarket. I was surprised to find that, despite her refined and delicate image, Willow could cook wonderfully. She said, "My signature Spanish seafood paella. You have to try it." Willow was wearing the cartoon cat-themed loungewear I bought for her, proudly taking off her oven mitts and squatting down to peel shrimp for our big orange cat. She muttered while doing it, "If you don't feed him, he won't eat. You weren't this spoiled when you were wandering around." Big Orange rubbed his tail against her hand, and she couldn't help but laugh lightly. A few strands of hair fell onto her smooth, fair forehead. Her eyes were soft, and the orange light from the lamp bathed both her and the cat. I froze for a moment, struck by the beauty of the scene. That night, after Willow fell asleep, I didn't go to open her computer. Willow had no defenses against me. She was the only daughter of the Liu family, and much of the company's important data was on her computer. I knew her password. For the past few days, I had been digging into the Ito family's information. The Ito and Liu families had been cooperating for years, and I didn't believe that the Liu family had no dirt on the Ito family. Just as I expected, I had found some clues about Ito family's tax evasion and even discovered they were moving illegal assets overseas. However, I hadn't yet found concrete evidence. But today, I hesitated. Willow was really a great person. The Ito and Liu families had been bound together for years, and if I brought down the Ito family, the Liu family would definitely be affected too. I found myself hesitating. I had always believed I was just using Willow, but after spending time with her, I couldn't tell if I truly liked her or not. She was so sincere with me. She even ignored her family's advice and decisively broke off her engagement to Makoto for me. Foul-lying for a girl like her was far too easy. I knew that once I took action against the Ito family, our relationship would never be the same. Willow, so pure and innocent, if she found out I had deceived her, she would probably be heartbroken, hate me for the rest of her life. But should I just sit idly by and watch Makoto live a smooth and comfortable life? Without Willow, he still had the Ito family. He would never suffer. I lay there, staring at the CEI Liag, unable to sleep all night, until the morning light crept in. A ray of sunshine slipped through the thick curtains and into my eyes. I squinted, and Willow stirred beside me, snug Liag into my arms and sweetly saying, "Good morning, hubby." Then she petted Big Orange, who was lying on her head, and said, "Good morning, too." Big Orange stretched and yawned loudly, then lazily stretched his body, his paws splayed out. After a long silence, I asked, "Willow, if you had to say, what's the one thing about us being together that you couldn't accept?" Willow, still not wanting to get up, closed her eyes, her voice hoarse from just waking up. After a long pause, she replied, "The one thing I couldn't accept? It would be if you lied to me, if you betrayed my trust." Chapter 8. When the doorbell rang, I thought it was Willow. I grabbed Big Orange and went to open the door, speaking as I opened it. "Big Orange is being so troublesome today. I think he might be in heat and needs his balls chopped off." But the next second, I froze in place. Standing at the door was Makoto, and he was holding Willow by the shoulder. Willow pushed his hand away and looked directly at me, her eyes cold, no longer the gentle warmth she used to show. A jolt ran through me, and I unconsciously loosened my grip, causing Big Orange to dart out of my hands with a meow. Makoto sneered and said, "George, or should I call you David?" He shook a file in his hand, and I could make out my photo inside. "I knew you looked familiar," he said with a mocking grin. "So, it's you, the useless coward, always pretending to be someone you're not. Even changed your name." He pulled Willow closer, placing his arm around her shoulder as he continued. "See, Willow, I told you he was just using you to get back at me. Only I'm truly sincere with you." Willow fixed her gaze on me. The light outside was fading, and I couldn't make out her expression clearly against the backlight. All I could see were the vague outlines of her figure. She spoke softly. "My dad had someone check. My computer has been tampered with. The files in the cabinet have been touched too. You said you liked Yukio Mishima's books, that you liked skiing. Those were things I posted during my university days. I asked the fishing place's owner, and before these past few months, you'd never gone fishing." "David, no. George, tell me, was that a coincidence?" In that moment, I knew there was nothing left for me to say. I stared at her for a long time, tugged at my lips, and gave a bitter smile. I thought this day would come when I'd be exposed. I just didn't expect it to be this soon. "Willow, it's no coincidence. I got close to you to take revenge on Makoto, but I'm willing to face the consequences. Now that he's figured it out, there's nothing more to say." Makoto laughed. "George, trash is trash. No matter how many years pass, it'll never amount to anything." He walked up to me and slapped my face, saying, "You think I'll face retribution? People like you, from the lower class, don't even count as human. You're just wasting air. The fact that you can be a tool to please me means you've served your purpose. You should thank me. You want to take revenge on me?" He grinned wickedly. "Maybe in your next life." It had only been 2 months, but somehow, my things were already scattered around her home. The summer slippers I bought for Willow, the cozy winter slippers she had ready for us, one white and one gray, placed next to each other, the pink and blue couple mugs, with a heart in the middle that I had once mocked as cheesy. After I took one, the other remained, broken and lonely. The pajamas hanging together, the pillows leaning against each other, the little blanket on the coffee table that we shared. I stood in the living room, suddenly feeling an ache in my chest that I couldn't explain. It was all fake, but somehow, I had gotten caught up in it. I closed my eyes, turned around, and left. As I passed Willow, she suddenly spoke, asking a random question. "Does it hurt?" I replied coldly. "What does it matter if it does? I've been enduring it for years." She lowered her gaze, saying nothing. I smiled bitterly, shook my head, and walked out. Chapter 9. I dragged my luggage aimlessly. I didn't know where I was going. My mind was blank. When water hit my eyes, I looked up in confusion and realized that it had started raining without me noticing. Pedestrians around me began to run. The evening light was dim, and the tail lights of passing cars reflected in the puddles on the ground, creating red ripples. I stood there in the rain, like an isolated island submerged by the tide. I hadn't gotten my revenge, and I had thrown my feelings away in the process. It felt like losing both the lady and the soldiers. Unfortunate events will follow one after another. Just as I was already drenched in the rain, I fell sick. I lay in bed at home, feverish and dazed, too lazy to buy any medicine. I wasn't sure if it was because of the illness, but a sudden wave of self-loathing overwhelmed me. I felt utterly meaningless. I drifted in and out of sleep, when suddenly, my phone rang. I struggled to grab it, and on the other end, someone seemed to be saying something, and I must have replied, but my mind was foggy, and I couldn't remember anything. I don't know how much time passed, but I vaguely heard the sound of a door opening. I tried to open my eyes, but my body felt like it was weighed down by an invisible force, and no matter how hard I tried, I couldn't move. A warm small hand touched my forehead, and after some rustling sounds, someone propped me up and placed something bitter into my mouth. They whispered softly in my ear, "Take the medicine." I frowned as I swallowed, drinking a few sips of hot water. The person gently laid me back down, half asleep. I felt a gaze on me, someone watching me closely. I felt a little hot, so I pushed the blanket off and exposed my arm. My arm was covered with many scars, burns from Makoto's cigarette butts, cuts from knives. There was also a deep knife scar on my wrist. That one I had made myself after my grandmother passed away. After a day and night in the hospital, I still couldn't bring myself to find her. I had been left alone in this cold and cruel world. I had worn long-sleeved shirts all this time while being with Willow. Even my pajamas were long-sleeved. She had never seen the scars on my arms. That gaze lingered on my hands, unmoving. After a long while, someone gently took my hand and rubbed it against her cheek, the fingertip sending a wet sensation through my skin. I instinctively wiped the tears off her face, murmuring softly, "Grandma, I'm fine. It doesn't hurt at all." The person trembled slightly, and tears continued to flow. After a long pause, I heard a soft sigh, followed by the warmth of wetness on my face. When I woke up, it was already dark. I had slept the whole day. I touched my forehead. It was cool now. The fever had broken. I glanced at the nightstand beside me. There was a half-full glass of water, now completely cold. A pill for the fever lay beside it, with one missing. The next day, I went home. The house was empty and silent. On the coffee table, there was a thick envelope. I walked over and pulled out the documents inside. Dozens of pages, all filled with evidence of the Ito family's illegal activities over the years. I picked up my phone and opened the chat history with my friend from the previous morning. The message read, "You should call Willow and say that when you talk to me." My voice didn't sound right. It seemed like I was sick. My friend's reply was, "Okay." Chapter 10. I publicly reported the Ito family for tax evasion, sending the evidence straight to the internet. In addition to that, I also revealed evidence about Makoto's father hiring someone to murder a competitor and about Makoto's older brother drugging and kill a girl with an overdose. These were old events, buried years ago by money and connections. With the victims unable to seek justice, the case sparked a massive uproar on Lioa. Within no time, several trending topics exploded with red hot tags, and millions of netizens were discussing the issue. Hundreds of thousands of comments demanded severe punishment for the criminals. Before the investigation could conclude, other competitors of the Ito family started hiring Onlua trolls to spread news of the Ito family's crimes, bribery, stealing trade secrets, and illegal competition, to name a few. Previously, with the Liu family as their backer, no one dared to challenge the Ito family. But now, everyone knew the Liu family had turned against them, and without fear of reprisal, people eagerly piled on, exposing even more of the Ito family's wrongdoings. I then released the story of Makoto's bullying during his high school years, and the internet went wild with rage. Netizens angrily commented, "This entire family is full of evil people. Nothing good about them. Justice may be delayed, but it will never be absent. After all the evil they've done, it's time for them to face the consequences. Support for you. I've also been bullied before, and the bully is finally getting their comeuppance. I hope you get your revenge soon." In no time, the Ito family became a target for everyone. Ito's father, mother, and Makoto's older brother were all summoned and detained. Only Makoto managed to escape. The Ito family had transferred some assets overseas years ago. Makoto thought he could escape the country and continue living the lavish life of a rich second-generation heir, enjoying a life of excess. But on his way to the airport, he was chased by a police car. In his panic, he sped up and crashed into a bridge pillar, losing consciousness on impact. After being rescued at the hospital, it was discovered that he had suffered severe spinal injuries, leaving him paralyzed from the neck down. The next time I saw Makoto, he was alone in a rented basement room, unable to pay for his medical bills. He had been kicked out of the hospital. The small room was a relative's last-ditch effort to help, simply dumping him there without care. I bent down and entered the damp basement. It had rained recently, and the black moldy CEI liag was dripping water. A rat scurried across the floor, startled by my footsteps, its long tail trailing behind as it rushed into the dark, foul-smell liag drain. Makoto lay on a wooden bed. When he saw me, his face twisted in horror. He tried to move, but no matter how hard he tried, he couldn't. A foul odor emanated from beneath him. I squinted. His body had rotted in places, with feces sticking to his bedsores. A disgusting mess. At first, when I heard Makoto wasn't dead, I felt a little regretful. But now, I felt nothing. This was good. I enjoyed the sight of his misery. He deserved to live like this, suffering, desperately paying for the sins he had committed. Makoto was still surprisingly strong. Even in this condition, he didn't lose his sanity. He gritted his teeth and stared at me with eyes full of terror. I had never seen such a terrifying look. I almost wondered if he could move. Would he leap at me to bite me to death? I looked down at him from above and asked, "Makoto, do you regret it?" He sneered and pulled his lips into a twisted grin, glaring at me with hatred. "Regret?" Makoto spat, his voice hoarse but venomous. "I regret not killing you back then. George, you're nothing but scum from the bottom of society. You were born to be a worthless piece of trash. What does your bad life have to do with me? Why should I regret?" I replied. "Is that so? Seems like your life isn't too great either." I laughed, leaning closer to him. "I'll take your woman, and I'll live a good life with her. You don't need to worry about her anymore." Makoto paused for a moment before going into a frenzy, his screams wild and desperate like a beast in its death throes. His throat became hoarse quickly, gasping for breath, the sound grating like nails scraping on a blackboard. "George, you won't die a good death. You bastard. You deserve to die, George." I turned and walked out. Even now, Makoto still didn't think he had done anything wrong, but that didn't matter. I didn't need his repentance. I wouldn't forgive him. Is there a God in this world? I don't know. But if there is no divine punishment for his sins, then I'll make sure he gets punished myself. I raised my hand, and sunlight filtered through my fingers, landing on my face and cutting off the damp, dark shadows behind me. The rainy season when I was 17, now, finally, the sky was clear. Chapter 11. The Liu family must have been preparing to sever ties with the Ito family in advance. The recent scandal surrounding the Ito family did affect the Liu family to some extent, but the impact wasn't severe. Since Willow handed over those documents to me, she's never contacted me again. She completely disappeared from my life, and we have no further connection. Everything felt like a dream now that I've woken up. She has left not a trace behind, except for fishing. I developed a habit of fishing, going whenever I had nothing else to do. When I'm fishing, I can calm down completely. and my chaotic thoughts gradually settle. I still liked going to the pond where Willow and I used to go, but this time, I unexpectedly saw a familiar figure. Willow was there. My feelings were complicated. I didn't know whether to approach her, but she didn't seem to notice me at all, her gaze fixed on the bobber without moving. I shook my head and couldn't help but laugh at myself. Sitting down at a distance from her, what was I even thinking? After all the lies I told her, the fact that she was still willing to help me was already her last act of kindness. How could I expect this girl, whom I had hurt so much, to still like me? Today, the fish weren't biting well, and I was a mess inside, lost in thought. I sat there for ages without a catch. Just as I was thinking of making one last cast before leaving, the next second, the hook caught Willow's skirt. We looked at each other, both feeling extremely awkward. I quickly walked over to reel in the lure and free the hook, but in the process, I accidentally lifted the hem of her skirt slightly, revealing a section of her pale leg. Willow coldly said, "George, using the same trick twice isn't interesting." She untangled the hook and turned to leave. I grabbed her and pulled her back. She tried to push me away, but I refused to let go. The two of us lost our balance and fell to the ground. Willow glared up at me, biting her lip in annoyance. "What are you doing? Let go." I firmly shook my head and refused. "Not a chance, Willow. I have to say something." She looked at me with hatred in her eyes, but after a long pause, she suddenly turned her head away, her body tensing for a moment before relaxing as if all the tension had drained away. It was the first time I heard her curse. She muttered, "Bastard." I sighed, rolled up my sleeves and continued. "Makoto burned me with hot water in middle school, put out his cigarette on my skin, took photos of me, and caused my grandmother's tragic death. I hated him so much, and I never stopped wanting to get revenge. After that, I hesitated. You can't forgive me, you can curse me, but I really like you. I've never lied to you about that." When Willow saw the scars on my body, tears filled her eyes. She gently traced her fingers over the scars on my arm and sighed as if giving up. "You always do this to me. You always pull this move. You know I'm worried about you, so you make me see this. I'm really so angry. You liar. You think I'm easy to fool, tricking me over and over again." I lowered my head, cupping her face in my hands and asking, "Then, will you forgive me?" The wind under the setting sun rustled the leaves, and the distant mountains parted to reveal a pale, white moon. She stood on tiptoe and kissed my lips. She whispered, "I give in, but if you're going to lie again, make sure it's for a lifetime." Not far away, a fish bit the hook, but no one was holding the rod. The fish quickly finished the bait and escaped. I smiled. It didn't matter, because the biggest catch, the one I really wanted, had already been landed.